Yeah, I think we have everyone, so we can officially open the meeting, I think. Start with reviewing the minutes. Okay, guys, we have consensus on the minutes. Yes, got a thumbs up from Rob, Shirley, Wendy. Great. Okay. All right, guys. So welcome. Good to see all of you. Happy Lunar New Year. Goes out to everyone. I'm hoping everyone was able to enjoy um, this weekend and the festivities for those of you who celebrated. I actually got a nice little treat this morning from Superintendent 2, dropped one off this morning, so thank you very much to her. But we are going to get going today. Our agenda is as follows. We already engaged in the approval of the minutes. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit around MOI data. New York State accountability status. We'll speak on that briefly, and then Parent Leadership Summit information from myself and Wendy, who were able to attend, and I know Shirley was able to attend on behalf of the high school part of it. But as part of our conversation, it was Wendy and myself, Esther, and Jenny were able to participate in that, and we got some pretty good next steps for ourselves that we'll talk about today. And then Gus will share out anything else around information coming regarding benchmarking and the like that I don't talk about, and the New York State accountability information that was just released on about our schools, which I will talk about briefly as well. Then we'll go through all of the reporting as necessary for each of our constituent groups. Okay, so just some updates and reminders. This I shared with you guys already. You should be aware of this, 3K pre-K admissions. This is not something new, but just as a reminder for any of you that are not aware for whatever reason, you want to share this out with your schools and constituents, that would be great. Wednesday, January 10th is when it opened. March 1st is when 3K pre-K applications close. And then in May, they will offer their releases for our students. G&T application window opens April 15th, closes May 3rd, and then release of information on the 12th. This going just a recap. As you guys know, we have our newsletter. I encourage you guys to spread the news around the newsletter. We do have an awful lot of information that's posted in there. Marissa does a great job, along with Lewis, updating all of this information as the months go by. January was Martin Luther King Jr. We celebrated Martin Luther King Jr. Day. We did have one of our schools just a quick shout out in terms of the essay and art exhibition that they presented and shared their illustrations out with the state, which was really, really nice. We had 2 District 25 safety workshops. The recordings are here, guys. If you have others that would like to view them, it is in Spanish and in Chinese. Was pretty well attended for both of our sessions. Thank you to Mr. Marino, who's on the call, for hosting one, and Mr. Leung for hosting the other. It is here for you guys as needed. We do want to make sure that our families are aware of the safety protocols to keep themselves and their kids safe on a day-to-day basis, as more and more folks are using those scooters, those motorized scooters and those motorized bicycles, and sometimes they're not aware of those rules and expectations. And I thank Monique for that, because she connected us with members from the DOT to get us started. So thank you, Monique, for pointing us in the right direction there. The 2 gentlemen from DOT were terrific. Special ed parent learning opportunity. We did hold our second of the 3 in our series. This was held in January. Again, the recording is here for any of you that want to connect with your families in your community that may have questions around the disability classification and eligibility process. Really super important information that Nathan has been sharing for our communities, as our parents at times are not as familiar as they need to be with all things special ed related. So we encourage our folks to get on there and check it out. Just quick shout out around Queens North Spelling Bee. Thank you to Melinda and Nathan again for supporting this work, and for our winner in District 25. We had a first place winner at 185. So congratulations to Jeffrey for earning that win at the Spelling Bee competition. Project Soapbox is underway. Our kids are really doing a really nice job of organizing their speeches and establishing a space where they can take a stand on something that's important to them. We really love this type of work and want to continue to build it out across our schools moving forward. As part of our Civics for All initiative too, is embedded inside of that. In addition, many of our schools, if they haven't already, are in the process of organizing their participatory budgeting, where our kids in our buildings have access to make decisions around funds that are allocated to each of our schools for them to make choices around what's best for the community. We are in Black History Month. Our schools are engaging in work to making sure that we are not only celebrating, but educating our kids on our historical figures, our Black historical figures that have made such a difference in our lives. And so our kids are engaging in tasks and activities related to such. More will be available as we come through this month, and then share in our newsletter, and then I'll share more widely in March when we get there. It was the School Counselors Week. We do want to always celebrate our counselors, but it was just this past week, School Counselors Week. So big shout out to them for all the work that they do on behalf of our kids. As I mentioned, Lunar New Year. Our schools are doing a variety of different activities and hosting a variety of different events, which you will see here on the next slide. Just a couple of examples of some of the celebrations that had already occurred in our buildings. So more to come on that as well. World Read Aloud Day. We do have a celebrity in our midst. Shirley was one of our volunteers for World Read Aloud Day, and we thank Shirley for participating. She went to 165 along with Renee Klager, who's now Senior Director of Instruction, former principal in District 25, where they had an opportunity to read, engage in a read aloud with our kids, across grade levels at 165. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be there myself, but I understand it was a really, really terrific day. Shirley, any quick comments while we have everyone here now? Anything you want to share about that?
No, yeah, it was really great. It was great to see how to engage the students in the story and how they appreciate. And I think the biggest comeback, I think appreciate how they use what they learned in the classroom in their responses. So I had a fourth grade nest class, and she goes, one of the students go, "Oh, this was um a realistic fiction." And I'm looking at her, I was like, "Oh my God!" And to see so kids are actually listening and learning, and incorporating and making those connections that which we want to happen. So it was a great time.
I love it. Love it. Thank you so much, Shirley, for participating and being selected to be part of one of our schools. So that's really awesome. Thank you for that. Um, District-wide iReady workshop. We're going to send out another blast today. It will be held at 107. I know, Wendy, you mentioned you'd be there today. So it's really
Yes.
important for our families to connect in this way, because oftentimes we get results from these diagnostic assessments, and then it's kind of the then what, right? So we're going to send out messages more widely so that our families can connect to the learning that's going to be available. We will have representatives from iReady themselves supporting our families and getting a clear understanding as to, one, how do we even get into this space of iReady with my kid in the digital space, but also what do the results mean for me as a parent? This was an outgrowth of comments that came from the CEC. So we are starting here, and I know a number of our schools do engage our families in this, but we need to do more to make sure that there is this mutual accountability for improvement with our families. So that is tonight. I'm hoping that we see a number of our parents there as well.
The SLT team will be there.
Oh, awesome. Terrific. Um, yeah, listen, the more, and this is certainly being hosted at 107, but any of our schools that want to come, we've encouraged them to RSVP so that we're ready to go. But yeah, we're hoping as many people come as possible as a springboard into conversations at their own schools, not as a means of just now we've done this and everything's great. It's now we're doing this, and how do we create more questions and supports for our families? We're going to be hosting a cyberbullying workshop in partnership with 109th Precinct. That'll be on March 5th. This is really important too, as you guys know, just the decisions that our children make when it comes to digital devices. Sometimes they're not necessarily always thinking the way that they should when they're on their devices, i.e. iPhones or iPads. And then it becomes after the occurrence happens that we start thinking like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. We have to make sure that we're helping our kids make the right smart choices before they push any buttons that get themselves into hot water. Debate League is coming soon, February 27th. We're really excited about this. This has become, a part of our work as a district. This is the second year running that Councilmember Palladino has supported us and sponsored this event. And will be an ongoing set of projects with the Debate League to promote, this critical thinking that comes from it. So we're excited about this next round with the American Debate League. This I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of. I'm sure at this point, each of you on this call are aware that we did lose former council member Paul Vallone this past, I think it's about a week and a half ago now. But what we have collectively chosen to do is move forward with extending a request to Central to have the Bell Academy and 169 community adjust the name of their school to the Paul Vallone Educational Community Campus with 169 at Bell Academy, so that they're not losing their own namesake, but we're naming the educational community campus after him, as he was a support for all of our schools in the district that he served, but particular relationship really grew at 169 in Bell. So we do intend to put forward that paperwork this week to send it to FACE, who then ultimately will bring it to the chancellor's office for a decision as to whether or not that's appropriate. But that's kind of where we are with that at this time. Okay, going into our priorities really quickly. So this is part of our winter benchmarking. This will go into the DCEP document after our conversation today, as part of the progress monitoring benchmarking window that we have to embed in the DCEP. And I'm sure Gus will mention a little bit about this too. But the current data will be shared in that platform. So priority 1, all students learn to read well. Excuse me, our goal was to improve by 5%, comparatively speaking, to last school year at this time. We are on track right now in grades K-2 to meet the expectations of that goal. The all student subgroup is 2.5% higher than where they were last year at middle of year. Our other 2 subgroups, our Black and Hispanic learners, are also in the space where they have met or exceeded what those expectations are. So for our Hispanic learners, the goal was that we would be 5% higher than this 41.81 by the end of the year. MOY to MOY, we are over 2.5% higher than where we were last year, which puts us on track, provided that we continue to sustain the progress that we've made to this point. We're on track to meet those expectations by the end of the school year. One of the things that I did notice in the DCEP, I had it relative to the end of year benchmark. I do have to make an adjustment there. It should have been really relative to the beginning of year benchmark, to middle of year, to end of year, so that we stayed on track. But we do look like we will meet the expectations of that, again, provided that we continue to push and meet the remaining parts of that goal. Our Black learners have increased by about that 5% already at this point of the year. So it's about recalibrating the expectations here for our Black learners and going beyond that 5% from what we originally stated. So we are currently at 53.21% at mid-year, at or above benchmark across K-2. And we want to continue to push on that. So when we loop back, I just ask you guys to kind of put a little asterisk next to this particular goal, so that we can say, you know what, if we're already at 5%, how much further do we want to push between now and the end of the school year as a district, so that we can send that there out much more widely to our communities to really push the expectations for our kids in K-2. My real feeling is if we can really push these proficiency levels for our kids in kindergarten, first and second grade, we're going to be much better off in third, fourth, fifth, and so on, which I will show you in a minute, because our upper grade data is not as, we did not see as much growth in grades 3 to 8 as we did K-2. Okay. All students are physically and emotionally safe. So this goal was that we would reduce the number of infractions by 10%. Right now, we are not currently on track to meet that expectation. Our student services team is currently in the space of analyzing mid-year occurrence data. We are, in fact, we did not reduce, we actually increased the number of infractions at this point of the year, which is something that we need to revisit our current plan. All schools that did demonstrate an increase in infractions are going to receive support visits from our student services team to support improved outcomes here. One of the things that we also did, we surveyed our students just in regards to overall social emotional learning health. In fact, hold on, let me see if I can just open this for you guys. Survey. Just so you can get an idea. So right now we had 8,442 students complete this survey. And what is interesting is students' responses, and that we do have more connections that we have to make when we're talking about things like self-awareness, things like social awareness. It seems as though we have about 60 to 70% of our kids feel really good about certain areas within social emotional learning, and others either neutral or find certain things to be difficult. So we're going to be unpacking this with our schools and our counselors, so that we can support our next steps. But one of the areas that we did also call out, which we need to start working more on, and I'll go right to it, is around the Mind Up program. So part of Mind Up, as you guys know, are around the brain breaks. Only 38% of the 8,000 plus children indicated that they feel like this helps them manage their emotions. Brain breaks help them stay focused. 43% say yes. Many unsure, and many say no. And then that the lessons help them make better choices. So these are things as schools that we're going to pay a little bit more attention to, as well with our case teams to support our next steps within our work here, because the goal is that Mind Up is intended to reduce some of these infractions, help reduce. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the things that we're putting into place to make sure that we have better decision making at the school level. So we do need to revisit this goal, and our student services team is already in the process of analyzing our mid-year data. But I can tell you right now, we are not meeting expectations. So we have to recalibrate on this, and we'll talk more about it in March after our analysis is all done, and our new set of action plan steps will be shared with you at that point. And certainly any feedback that you guys have is certainly very welcome. Okay, iReady, this is for our third goal and priority 3 around high quality academic experience. Right now, our data is very, very similar to last year across grades 3 to 8. We're talking about the slightest of improvements, across subgroups, and in fact, overall, a slight decline from where we were last year to where we are now. And that looks like, and just the other day was 46.63 was actually identical. I readjusted the data after a few more children tested, and it's at 46.59% of students that completed iReady or early on or above grade level, as compared to 46.63% this year. The goal is that we are surpassing the state assessment by 5%, which was at 62.9%. But interestingly enough, and this is something we have to dig more into as a district and as schools, is that there was a plus or minus across certain grade levels that we have to cue in a little bit more to see what's going on at individual grades and individual schools. As some schools did grow beyond that 5%, others not so much. So part of our action planning will be that our team is going to be recalibrating who it is that they have been supporting to demonstrate some of that growth, and then reorganizing our resources to support some of our schools that haven't made that same type of progress as others. So we're going to be supporting that moving forward. But across our all students, Hispanic and Black learners, it remained relatively flat. Our Hispanic learners grew marginally by less than 0.5% from mid-year to mid-year. When we compare beginning of year to now, yes, we've made a tremendous amount of progress, but I'm not looking at it from beginning to middle. I expect our schools to grow from beginning to middle. I want them to grow from mid-year last year to mid-year this year, so we're seeing improved outcomes, not staying stagnant. So we have a lot more work to do in this space. And our Black population also improved by just under 1%, but it's like 0.9% for our Black learners. But we do have much more that we have to do here. And you can see where I see these trends that are, if you look at grade 7, 2023, 24 to 22, 23, there's a much bigger difference in terms of overarching performance for our Black learners here, as well as a difference for our Hispanic learners in grade 7. So there are grade levels where we're seeing progress, grade 5 as well. So it's about tapping into what's going on really well in those grades, learning from that, and starting to make some adjustments as needed for our subgroup populations. In mathematics, the goal was for grades 5 to 8 that we would see a 5% increase, which right now, again, very similar to last year, very negligible change in terms of year-over-year progress in mathematics. Similar type of trend in terms of performance. There are some grade levels that have exceeded what we're looking for, like grade 7. Grade 5 stayed relatively flat in this case. The one promising note, which you don't see here, is the children that are currently preparing for the Regents have grown pretty significantly. Right now, we have over 71% of our kids performed at high and high average. That's 1,000 students. Out of 1,000 students, over 700 of them, about 750 children, are performing high and high average on the MAP growth assessment, which says that those kids last year scored 80 and above on the Regents assessment. And I do believe the same type of thing will happen this year. As the MAP assessment, it seems to be a pretty good predictor of success. We are still waiting for, I want to say, a good 300 children to complete this assessment. So as soon as I have that data back, I will share it. But similarly to our reading, we will have our district math staff person is going to be connecting with all of our schools, particularly those that have not shown progress. And we are going to reorganize our professional learning supports to help meet those goals by the end of the year in 2 areas: math routines and protocols to support student problem solving, which is something that we've been sharing across our schools, which particularly will be the 3 reads protocol in mathematics, so that kids have a very clear understanding of how to attack problems and think critically about them. Chronic absenteeism data. So we are in a space, while we're still at the top in New York City in terms of chronic absenteeism, since December, our attendance has been declining. December and January data have continued to dip, which has changed the space from where we were on track to meeting all goals when it came to chronic absenteeism, to a space where we're meeting for 2 subgroups, and we are not meeting for all learners, Hispanic learners, and L learners. While close, we are not meeting the current space. In October, November, we were meeting expectations for all of these areas. December and January, we have seen a decline. I do anticipate February, March, April, and May to improve in those areas, as they typically do year over year. But December and January, whether it was because of kids being sick, and that was in large part, we did hear and do see data come back from our schools, children with the flu, children with COVID, and it has impacted significantly in December and January. But we are working hard to help improve that. One of our team members, Austin, is dedicated to this and is working with all of our schools with the highest chronic absenteeism rates to support improved outcomes. And one in particular, I happened to be at a school recently, and the principal actually noted that one student that had been out frequently, that connected with Austin, has only missed 1 day since that point. And we're talking about over the last 4 months, has only missed 1 day. So those types of connections is what we want to really build with our students. We have a long way to go, guys, in terms of progress. This is something that I have discussed with our principals and assistant principals, that we are foot to the gas pedal between now and June to really build on the progress of our kids as it is necessary. And the last thing is Parent Leadership Summit, and then I'll open up to any questions and comments. So Parent Leadership Summit, myself, Beverly, Jenny, Esther, Shirley, and Wendy went to this leadership summit they had in Brooklyn with the goal of really organizing ourselves around collective commitments to improvement. The 3 areas that we came up with as a collective group were as follows. We have things like really supporting language needs of our families and being diligent around that as a community. Hold on, I'm sorry, I just got a quick message that came in. I just have to mention this to Lewis really quick. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. So really language supports, also building in these relational opportunities for parents, students to engage in community-related events. You know, we talk about workshops and trainings all the time, but I think they're most powerful when our parents are connected with their children and learning at the same time. So what we have seen is when we're offering things like First Friday, Welcoming Wednesday, the volume of parents is significant. And the reason that is the case is because of the connections that parents have with their children. They want to see their kids in action. So, you know, it's something important for us that I think we can continue to build on as a district community. Development of DLT subcommittees to promote school and district engagement was something that did come up, and I'd love for us to kind of brainstorm on as a collective group moving forward around how can we, as a DLT, promote and support these 3 items. So if I can ask you guys just to reflect for a moment on those 3 elements, that would be great. And then we'll come back together around any of the thoughts that you have to build that, and then we'll go back over any goals that you have questions on, you know, for me in particular. So just take like a minute or two. Things that those 3 commitment areas make you think.
Do you mind putting it on the screen real quick again, please?
Oh, of course, Shirley. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to put it into the chat. You can just take a moment of reflection. Okay, I'm wondering if you guys have any thoughts or comments.
I have a comment. I'm pretty sure people
Yeah,
would. I'm like for point number 3.
yeah,
Having committees. I think that's a good way to bridge transitions between the elementary and the middle school and high school, elementary to high school, using the students to share experience within their school. Also, mentoring the high schoolers and parents, helping with the younger kids. Get to, to bring partnership and connection that we're all a community, regardless of what grade. I think we could use one of those committees to do that.
yeah. I love that, Shirley. So, I think idea around transition. I think transition always comes up too. Certainly from the middle school level to high school. I think that's a really important one. And what can that look like in terms of that shared experience? I love that. Any other types of thoughts around subcommittees that we would be able to organize in relationship to bridging this space. Yeah, and Shirley,
Okay, I didn't get.
excuse me, Wendy, we can definitely organize around translation support. They do have the translation unit. I think the one thing that they do ask for, which always becomes a little bit of I don't want to say an issue, but they don't want to come if there's not going to be anyone there that needs it. You know, that often becomes a little bit of an issue when we request it. So they often ask for an RSVP, that, you know, there will be those that have needs. They don't want to necessarily, you know, incur the funds, if they know that folks aren't going to be there. But that's something we can think a little bit more deeply on in terms of how we can help with that.
No, what I mean is after our CEC meeting, can we get them translated and then post it?
Oh, you mean like the videos, like the
Yeah,
recordings?
yeah.
Um, I'm wondering. Yeah, that's a good idea, Wendy. Maybe we can do that. I don't know. I'd have to see whether or not they would allow for that. I think that's
Oh, okay.
at least a different way around supporting language needs.
Right, uh-huh.
Yeah, let me look into that.
And if you want more parents engaged at DCECs and all the other meetings, try to get them to volunteer to translate, to be translators. Um, Coming to these meetings that for language access.
Yeah, and I have to
That
tell
will
you,
bridge partnership
it's
and
hard.
community as well.
It's hard too. It's not easy to be a translator, you know. So
No.
even, you know, it seems like, you know, all you have to do is sit, you know, I hear you and I say it, but you know, folks that are really truly translating in between go through a bunch of training to make sure that they can do that well, you know, for community members. But I think we can definitely work on it for sure, Wendy. I don't have the best answer for that, but we can work toward it for sure to make
I
sure,
ask
because
Face also?
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll do that.
Face is a great point of contact.
Uh-huh.
And I know that often we wind up communicating with them about that, and they usually request that it's sent out ahead of time. Who's coming? Okay, I'll get you a Spanish translator because you have an identified need. That's usually where it winds up going. That's usually the route that they take.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Okay.
I was trying to get Central for years to have, when you have the caption, to put
Yeah.
it in different languages. That will make it easier. I mean, it will help in them understanding. It might not be complete accurate, but at least they understand what is the discussions are happening in there. If you can
Yeah.
get the closed caption to so they can choose in different languages.
Yeah, I think that would be great too, Shirley. And I have to see whether or not they do offer anything like that, any new updates that have come to any of our platforms. Because if there's one platform versus another that would do it, you know, that can also be you know, a choice that is made, moving forward for it. Because I do think, listen, the more that we have people ready and aware, the better off they'll be. They don't want to sit there and not understand anything during a meeting. It's not fun for anyone.
Yeah. Does these meetings have to be translated by someone who is a certified translator in their language?
So I would say that it's in our best interest to make sure that we have someone that has been vetted, because you don't want
Okay.
something that we put out and then it becomes, a nightmare because the choice of the way that something was phrased,
Okay.
is not the initial intent. And not to tell you this, I mean, this is years ago and technology's improved so much since then, but I translated through one of these automatic systems, and the way that it translated would have been incredibly offensive to the community that I was intending to translate it to. And it was only because
Oh,
I shared it with one of my staff members that spoke the language. He's like, "Oh, Mike, you can't send that," you know. But it was all with best intent, and the translation was not a good one. It would have translated into something that would have been offensive. So, for me, it's always about making sure that you know, we're clear on all of that.
And also, I guess maybe this is too early to even like, you know, try AI in, if there's any AI capability out there that, you know, do the translating.
Yeah, and it's getting better and better. We'd have to
Yeah.
definitely look for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So guys, I have to just take 1 minute of pause, and I do have to hop out. I'm being called into another meeting that I'm needed for really quickly.
Okay.
Gus, are you here to just quickly take over and kind of share your point, and then I'll come back in a few minutes?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you just kind of go through your bullet points, and I'll be back in very shortly.
Okay.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Make me host.
Yes, I don't have a
That's okay.
handout,
That's Mike.
so I don't need to share my screen. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm following up on what Superintendent Mike presented on the DCEP. The DCEP is complete and posted, and it should be available to all of you online. There is a section that he just discussed, the progress monitoring section, and I was trying to write down what we're on track and what we're not on track on. It looked to me as if there were two areas that were not on track according to the data. And that information needs to be put into the progress monitoring section of the DCEP. And I assume the district will do that. And that'll information and the documentation for it will be available to everybody online. It's a public document, so the updating will be public as well. And that information is forthcoming from Central. Now, I also, all of you have very kindly put up with the emails that I send out asking for various DocuSign signatures. I also sent out the DocuSign on the DCEP. Remember, that's a consultation signature, and like all of them. And it also is the signature that shows that you were consulted on the district parent engagement policy as well. We don't have a separate signature page as we did in the past on that. So I sent it out. I will survey and see how many signatures I'm missing. Remember, the way it works is that if you don't respond within a relatively short period of time, the email disappears. That's why I have to send out it again. And my understanding is that it repeats it. So if you signed it once, you don't have to sign it a second time. Just ignore the other email that you might get if you already took care of it. The machine seems to send it out to everybody. So that's on the DCP DocuSign and approval. I don't have a new template yet on the new DCP. I'm assuming that it's not going to change, but that remains to be seen. And so the progress monitoring piece of the DCP is what we're currently engaged in now. And you just heard the superintendent's discussion of the priorities and the data that we're utilizing to see whether we're on track or almost on track or not on track. So when he comes back, if there's any more discussion on that, we can discuss it. All of your CEPs should be posted and available online now. I don't think that we're missing any signature pages from District 25, but if we are, they're very few. So you're in compliance in 100%, and congratulations, because that's not true throughout the city on the CEPs. So the CEPs should all be there. If any CEP is not there, please let me know, and I will find out why. Some CEPs throughout the city were missing goals, and that's why they were not posted. Once again, District 25, I think, was 100%. My memory serves. So you don't have any that you owe. So all of yours should be posted. New York State accountability. I'm sure the superintendent will discuss that shortly when he comes back. Mike will talk more about it. I was not happy. New York State announced the accountability designations, and unfortunately, one school in geographic district 25 was identified as a targeted school for improvement, which is the category TSI. So CSI is the most extreme category. One school was identified. It's the Queens School of Inquiry 25Q 252. Now, the interesting thing about it is that it's a high school with middle school grades. And the middle school grades were the ones that were identified. But the school is not under Superintendent D'Antona, and it's not under Superintendent 2. It is under Superintendent Walsh. And I am not the director of school improvement for that particular school. It's one of my colleagues. So even though District 25 has lost its LSI as the new designation, which means good standing status, so you've gone back to a district in need of improvement, it's because of a school that neither Superintendent D'Antona or Superintendent 2 have anything directly to do with. It is under Superintendent Walsh. My recommendation would be that in the future, we have someone from Superintendent Walsh's office and maybe my colleague who is the improvement director for that particular school come to a DLT and discuss what the plan is. The TSI designation, ladies and gentlemen, means that that particular superintendent and my colleague will be directly responsible for supporting that school in terms of resources, visits, etc. So what we want to do is be informed as to the status. It was identified for the Black subgroup, and it's for the elementary / middle school grades. Actually, Superintendent D'Antona, Mike, is familiar with the school, and when that designation came about, we had a discussion about it, and he has some experience and some ideas about that particular school. It is in a shared building. It's my understanding that there's more than one school in that building. So when he comes back, I'm sure it's on his agenda to discuss because it impacts District 25. Hopefully that school will go into LSI, which is the good standing status, in the near future, and District 25 can get off of the improvement list. But that's the news, and it is now joined. District 30 are the two districts in need in that improvement status in Queens North. All of the other districts in Queens North are LSI, which is the good standing designation. So the status changes I believe in September, probably over the summer. Right now, everything remains the same. And because they just announced these designations and superintendents are just learning about them, and Central is coming up with plans along with the district soups that are responsible and Central staff that's responsible for supporting those schools. 25Q 252 is the school. So that is the state accountability comment that I will make. In addition, let me talk a little bit about SLTs. As you know, we did SLT training, which was very well attended. I think it was the highest number I had in Queens North so far. And people asked lots of good questions. We had a good interaction. Um, what I announced during the training was that we were going to have the uh, um, uh, uh, SLT activities calendar available shortly. I'm sorry to say I still haven't received it. I keep asking for it from Central. One of the reasons that it is especially important, as Principal Marino knows, state ed, because he was one of the pilot schools, state ed is collecting information on SLTs in detail. They want your agendas, they want your sign-in sheets, they want lots of, especially parent information. So
It was a lot of fun, Gus.
yeah,
Hoping
I know.
hoping we could do that again.
So that is going to become, Bob, that's going to become general. That's going to become applicable to all schools in the near future. I'm sure it'll be by next academic year. So what we need to do is get the word out to all of the SLTs and all of the schools, which this is what they should be doing anyway. But there's going to be some kind of a collection process, because what happened was that, as Principal Marino knows, is that we were contacted by state ed, and in a relatively short time, we had to come up with all of this documentation. So what Central is trying to do is they're trying to put a system in place where all of this information is collected ahead of time routinely and electronically. So when state ed asks us for information on any particular school, we have it readily available. So I just wanted to put that out there on everybody's agenda. By the way, they're doing the same thing for DLTs. So this meeting, all of the information and handouts that we have for every DLT meeting, attendance, agendas, minutes, all of that, I have to collect, put into a database because state ed asks for it. And we have to have it readily available. And I already have a system in place. I've spoken to the district staff for parent engagement. Wendy and Esther, sorry, Janet and Esther, you have that information, and I've spoken to you about collecting it and putting it into a database. So I know that you're doing that as well. They also want the same kind of information for all of the district Title I school PACs, parent advisory councils. So I know that we're coordinating that. It's a it's a heavy lift because it's a lot of material and it's new. But I'm confident because District 25 does everything ahead of time and does such an excellent job with everything that we will be at the forefront of getting all of this material together in databases. So going forward to next year, we'll have it readily available. They may ask us for it by the end of this academic year. We don't know yet. It's still, early in the academic year. Going forward, they will probably ask us either to spot check individual schools like they did last time, or they'll ask us to just show that we're doing this comprehensively. One of the items that helps SLTs is that calendar, the activities suggested calendar for SLT meetings. That's why I keep asking for it. We have one for DLTs. Let me remind you, I gave it out and we adhere to it. And I'm responsible for collecting all of that information along with the district staff. And I always want to thank Louis Latito because he's my partner at the District 25 level and always helps me make sure that I If I miss something, I usually go to Lewis and he has it. And your district website is excellent and has all that information as well.
I
On
told you, Gus, I keep that website is for me because I need to find it too. It's really
okay.
for me.
Well,
Everyone else just benefits,
it's very helpful for me, and I just want to give you a shout out because I want you to know that you're appreciated and not taken for granted. As the family coordinators, Esther and Janet, I see them whenever I'm at Linden, and they're always very cooperative. On that note, Central, as Janet and Esther know, is collecting information on the Title I parent set-aside plans. And I've talked to them. I don't know, Central is issuing reports, and I know that the latest report was shared with those two district individuals. I get copied on those reports, but because I know that you're in such competent hands, I haven't, reached out to individual schools, etc. I know that Jenny and Esther are handling that. So I'm confident that if we have any schools that are missing on those plans, they will make sure that they are collected and put into the appropriate database. And our wonderful senior grants officer makes sure that all the fiscal aspects are in place as well, along with the budget analysts and budget directors for District 25. So it's a cooperative um, uh, effort, folks. And as you can tell from my presentation, scrutiny by the state and central is increasing. And so the way to be ahead of the curve is to put systems in place that uh, are there so we have all of the information whenever we're asked for it. And that's what we're doing um, uh, uh, throughout the rest of the academic year, both at the district level and at the school level. Um, I think I've covered everything. My expectation is that, and I hope I'm correct, that the high school representative will give you an overview on the high school DCP, because another one of the state interests and what they're monitoring is very much the coordination and the information flowing between the high school level and the community school levels. Again, I'm proud of the fact that Queens North as a whole has a very good system in place. And I have to also collect all of the high school information as well to show the state that these DLTs, they don't have just a nominal or occasional representation by the high schools, that the high schools are constantly at every meeting sharing information, and that there's a flow of information between the community school level and the high school level. I
Yeah.
see that Mike is back. Mike, one of the
Yes.
things that I told them about was about the designation, the TSI designation for 25 Q252.
Yes.
Maybe you can speak a little more to that. What I suggested is that at some point we get a representative from Superintendent Walsh's office and my counterpart who is supporting that particular
So
school to come
so
to a
Gus,
DLT and tell us,
Gus,
what they're doing. Yeah.
yeah. So Gus, I'll definitely do that. There's just a couple of pressing things which the meeting that I was just on, just to make sure that I share with you. And yes, we will circle back to
Okay.
Superintendent Walsh. But I do want to make sure that everyone is aware that a decision was made to go remote tomorrow, remote learning tomorrow for all students in New York City. The forecast apparently has changed from potential dusting to 5 to 8 inches of snow. that would go throughout the day. So that's the reason why I had to hop off. So I do apologize for doing that. But when you see a message that we're doing a superintendent huddle and you got to join now, that's why I did that. So part of what we'll be doing from this point, just as a collective team, is just to make sure that everyone is ready to go, that our kids have the resources that they need to get on to the system tomorrow and be ready to go for instruction. So from here, just so that everyone knows, I'll be communicating with our building leaders as well as my team, so that all of our schools are connected with tomorrow, that we're ready to go to take attendance, that we're ready to go in terms of making sure that our kids receive instruction throughout the day tomorrow during this remote learning experience that they will be receiving. So our schools have been prepped for this as the year has gone on, as we were anticipating a lot more than this one day, I think, just with the forecast at the beginning of the year. So they are, in fact, going to be doing that tomorrow. The announcement will be made public to all folks at 11 o'clock. Is something that they're anticipating to be shared widely. One of the reasons I'm sharing with you now, one, because I have the opportunity and all of you guys are together, but this had already been shared in another space. And rather than you hearing it outside of this space, I wanted to make sure that you were aware that, in fact, that is there is truth to that announcement that schools will be going remote learning tomorrow. So I know we have a number of other things on the agenda. We'll get through them quickly from each of our union representatives if you have something to share. But we'll go through that quick if you don't mind, just so that I can get to a space of making sure all of our schools are prepared and ready to go tomorrow. I would appreciate it. I am excited that all of our schools in D25 and K-8 are LSI schools, which means they are the new version of good standing in district. I also want to point out that another one of our schools was nominated to be a blue ribbon school. So PS 130 had received a nomination, so we're excited for them, and we'll hopefully that they will be granted the status over time. So we're excited about that. And yes, Gus, we will connect with Fred and bring in 252 or a representative from 252 to talk about the subgroup that they've been identified for, and that is our Black learners at Q252. So I think it's something that not only just for Q252, but something that you guys all well know is part of our own district-wide set of expectations that we're improving outcomes for our Black learners, in particular here in D25. So it's something that we all need to really kind of dig more into, particularly for 252. I know that we do need to do subcommittee work. If you're okay, if we can table that until March, I would ask all of you to really think about what other subcommittees that we can create. Wendy, you and myself, Jenny and Esther can really brainstorm around CEC translation. I've already made a note of that. We'll figure out how we can do that a little bit better.
So Wendy,
CEC.
Wendy, I'm actually writing an email to you right now to talk about that, since we have to end this meeting early. And then she'll let me know what, and I'll let you know exactly what we have to do. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And certainly, Shirley, would love for you to connect with Eduardo and someone from the superintendent's team to really talk about, that partnership and that relationship of transition. I think it would be very well served for all of our kids, especially our middle schoolers, moving in that space from middle to high school. But I also think it's important for our kids moving from elementary to middle. There's also that other transition space that I think we have to concentrate on. So would love it if we can kind of think about anyone else that's on DLT that would like to participate in that. So just think on it, and we'll come back in March, and hopefully we can organize ourselves into these small little subcommittee groups to support our next steps. So that'll kind of conclude my portion of it. Shirley, do you have anything from President's Council, High School President's Council, and subcommittee reports?
So I'm gonna do this high school subcommittee report. Lewis received it. I think he shared the notes, but the hidden gem was from a school from the South Bronx, High School for Violin and Dance. The school focused in dance, string orchestra, ballet, modern dance, and hip hop. which all accumulate in an end of year performance. But the school also has a future ready program, business, which is business focused, a student success center, a college and career pathways planning team, and a college now. I'm going to let everybody, when you can see the slides and um, get more information about that. The main presentation was regarding special education. Chief Fody talked about the division's work and the expansion of new programs. Also, she turned the agenda over to Victor Edwards, the family engagement special progress coordinator. And then, if you haven't known now, there still is a Special Education Advisory Council. And from their first initial reports, meetings, the outcomes were of New York City public schools must be intentionally designed to be fully inclusive and independent. New York City public schools must take steps to reimagine general education. General education classes must be reconstructed so students with disabilities can receive targeted instruction and support in the general education context. The third point was strengthening trust between schools and families. The fourth one is prioritizing investments in public school programs close to students' homes that promote inclusion and result in strong student outcomes. And the final takeaway from the advisory board is shift mindsets, foster organization-wide anti-BLS culture, and incorporate the perspectives of those with live experiences. Also talked about the transition and college access centers, which support high school students by acting as student advocates, providing college access tours and workshops, and supporting families around the college accommodation process. There was a press conference on January 31st, and one of those news that was shared was the expansion of autism program and the expansion of the individual education plan IEP parent member role. And if you want more details and see the slides, just click on the links on the notes. And then the final part out of this was the borough-based breakouts. And for Queens, in the breakout room, we discussed the superintendent Walsh, not superintendent, Superintendent Noah Angeles is the new superintendent for New Vision Schools. And he said he was engaging in school visits so he get to know the schools in his district. The transfer school superintendent John Sullivan was talked about his transfer school fairs. Superintendent Watu for Queens North was getting to ready for a family forum to engage families around partnership. And President's Council is also preparing, Queens High School President's Council is preparing celebration of the high school student voice on May 4th to elevate the work of students and stakeholders in Queens South just launched STEM in the South, innovation sites where students can enroll and get access to CT credentials. And that is the report for the Citywide High School Subcommittee. In regards to Queens High School President's Council, keep it real brief. We're actually, besides, you could hear we're finalizing our event for May 4th, which is at Francis Lewis High School. The main thing right now, since it's spring elections in general, we're going over nomination committees, election protocols, timelines that need to be like telling your principal that by April 1st, when the election is going to happen, when notices are supposed to come. So overview of PD of regarding spring elections and SOT elections in Title I if that school needs to do Title I elections. And that's it for Queens High School President's Council.
Thank you so much, Shirley. And you know, the whole space, just to quickly tap into the whole inclusion piece that Shirley was just talking about, super important. And you know, the more we can kind of build on that message of, you know, supports, particularly for our children with special needs, you know, all the better. You know, and one of my hopes of, you know, forward thinking wise is to even create more space for our children, especially those with autism, through additional Nest and Horizon ASD Nest Horizon programs. So I've already inquired. I'm hoping in the future I'll be given a go ahead to try to open more of them inside of District 25. I know that is a process. It's not going to just be because I want it. So hopefully over time, we'll be able to expand on that in D25 to support all of our kids here. Okay, CSA, anything from you, Mr. Marino?
No, actually, I always feel like I have nothing. I got to figure out what I can really bring from CSA. I feel like a bump on a log over here.
Rob is in shock like we are.
Yes, no.
CSA would like to say they're in agreement with the chancellor's decision to close schools tomorrow. We're happy that they did it this early. And
Is
I
that
look
your
forward to
official
hearing
statement? Is that your official statement?
my official statement. Please put it in the minutes, Lewis. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Marino. I appreciate it. Lamar. Lamar, anything from you?
Lamar's too
Okay.
busy texting all the teachers.
I'm doing
about
this
the-
completely out of order than usual, guys. I'm just looking at names as they come up on my screen, so I apologize for that. Wendy.
Just quickly, the CEC unanimously voted to name PS 169 Bell Academy the Paul Vallone Community Campus in the memory of our former council member Paul Vallone. And also our administrative assistant, Carly Everett, she resigned last week. So our February meeting that took place last Wednesday was her last meeting. And the council formed a hiring committee to review resumes and interview candidates. If you know anyone interested in the position, I have to double check with FACE again that they post the listing on DOE. So if you have anyone interested, please ask them to check the DOE job listing website. Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Monique.
Hi, everyone. Yes, so I will be doing some site meeting visits. I'm in the process this week. I'll be emailing principals with a flyer and a date that I'm available. If it doesn't work for them, I'm more than happy to reschedule for another date. Again, we are going in for educational purposes, just to educate our union members on the benefits that the union offers and also benefits that the Department of Education offers as well. Also, I know I did give you a flyer and thank you so much for posting it on the District 25 website about food service hiring halls. So I'll just state that there are a few more coming up. One happened this past weekend on the 10th. There's two in March 9th, March 23rd. Then we have April 6th, April 13th. Then we have May 4th and May 18th. And we have June 1st and June 22nd. And that's it for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. And I owe you like 10,000 phone calls. My apologies. I have to give you
No,
a call.
that's okay, Dr. Mike. That's fine. Whenever you have a chance.
Yeah,
Okay.
you got it.
Thank
You
you.
got it. I know I have neglected you there, so I'm sorry. I'll make sure I get in touch with you. Lamar, you have anything that you want to share?
No, I've been here, but obviously I've been answering a lot of phone calls. I got a little busy
I
for
know.
the last half hour.
I'm sure you have.
Yeah, listen, but I'm about to run and go get some salt. So I will see y'all in a minute.
All right,
But
go
we're
get
good.
that salt.
No
Go get that
announcements.
salt. All right, perfect. Eduardo, high school report?
Yes, I have a brief high school report. Let me share my screen here. Oh, it says host disabled participation.
We'll get it for you. Hold on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Screen 2. Here we go. All right. Greetings from Superintendent 2. So we have our Youth Empowerment Conference coming up April 5th at Queens College from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. This is where all the students, all the schools will highlight, student performances and come together. April 5th at Queens College, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Yeah. So this is our high-level timeline for 23-24 CEP development. I will share these at the end of the presentation. I'll put a quick link to.
Eduardo, you're not sharing your screen. I'm not sure if you
Oh.
realize that or not.
Hold on. I show screen 2. Here we go.
There you
All
go.
right, let's go briefly over that. So this is going to be our Youth Empowerment Conference at April 5th at Queens College. I do apologize for the technical issue. So this is our high-level timeline for 23-24. Our district comprehensive education plan overview with all 5 priorities. So this is our goals aligned here with reducing the district absenteeism from 30 to 27%. And our district priorities align with the chancellor's priorities. 21 out of 26 high schools trained in Harvard systems for analyzing and making data-informed instructional decisions, and 24 out of 26 schools EEI, brain-based research approach, building for educators' capacity to develop and implement student-centered instruction. So one more thing here, we have our professional learning dashboard online. I just want to give you a quick introduction to it. Our team has been working diligently in doing the school-facing professional development dashboard. So we'll also be including, David and I will also be including our parent coordinators, professional development offerings, and any parent event, so that Gus and the state will have easy access to really what's going on in Queens North. Thank you.
Thank you, Eduardo. And,
Okay.
I know Gus mentioned this, even for future ones,
Yeah.
just the kind of alignment similar to the way that I've been kind of sharing out where we currently are within context of meeting or not. The goals certainly could be helpful too, just in terms of our conversation. So thank you for that, Eduardo. Rachel, do you have anything you want to share from President's Council?
We at our recent meeting, we filled our vacancy for the recording secretary with 2 co-recording secretaries. The meeting coming up on February 26th, we will have, in addition to our superintendent report, we will have a presentation by Wing Yi Chung, the District 25 social worker. So we're looking forward to that.
Yeah, terrific, Rachel. And she's doing the executive functioning one, correct?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's a really, really, really good training. Offers opportunities for our parents to really connect with some of the needs that our kids have. I always bring all of these types of workshops and think about my own kids, and not only think about my own kids, but what I'm doing that might be resulting in their behavior. So I think it's definitely well worth it. So I'm looking forward to the President's Council to participate. I do have one other quick announcement. We have a new principal that has joined District 25 at 25Q379. Charmaine Witherspoon is our new principal in our 6 to 8 school over there. So I just wanted to announce her here and wish her well as she assumes the role. She just began on Tuesday and is well underway in supporting 379. So big shout out to her and wishing her well in her first few days as building leader. But guys, because of the nature of today, I hope you don't mind unless there's anyone else that has some new business that they want to mention. Go ahead,
I have a
Wendy.
question.
Yeah.
One of our CC member who I think will be attending today, the iReady event, he asked if there will be information on the score chart for iReady diagnostic test, or is it just a general introduction?
Okay, say more. What does that mean? The score what?
I guess, are you going to explain or clarify on the iReady diagnostic test?
So the presenter is the professional developer for iReady. So any question that a parent has, she will be able to answer. I would be able to answer all as well, but she's there as the support. So anything that a parent would need in terms of a question, she'll be able to answer.
Okay. All right. I'll let him know. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? So please think about those subcommittees that you'd like to participate in. Monique, just your experience as a PC, if you wanted to kind of organize around that relational type of support of parent workshops. I would love that. But anyone else, any other thoughts around committee work? I would really love to entertain that. I think it'll make these meetings, a little bit more engaging than having to listen to just me talk, so I think it'll create a nice opportunity for us to really dig into some things that are important to us. So think about which one that you would like to participate on, at least in that small space of engagement, parent engagement first, and then we can start branching off as time goes on, as we see fit. Does anyone, can we have consensus on bringing this meeting to a close so we can be ready for remote tomorrow?
Yes, motion to adjourn.
All right, we have consensus? Yes, I got
Yes, we have
Eduardo. Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Guys, thank you so much. I appreciate you, and sorry for the abrupt ending today, but want to get out there and make sure that we're good to go for tomorrow.
Yep. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Be safe.
Bye.